right, so in today's show, we're going to be discussing, is the crypto top in? Was that the Bitcoin cycle top? And is it possibly just a trap scenario? What are the best altcoins to be trading? Is there any sort of a trade opportunity to be getting into, especially around ETH BTC? We're going to have a look at that and a whole lot more in today's show. You can see over here on the Banter bubbles, of course, pullback still in motion. We're getting a short-term bounce on Bitcoin, but I know the multi-million-dollar question is that, right? Is it going to be a lower high? Are we in for a much deeper correction? Is the cycle top in or is the yearly top in? There's actually a poll that you can vote in the comment section below. Let me know, what do you think? Is the 2024 top in for the year? Yes or no? And let's assess the charts. Let's have a look at where things are at, and we'll get straight into the show content. Of course, in at least very popular fashion, just like every single other time we've seen Michael Saylor putting in massive buys, $5.4 billion, right? $55,000 Bitcoin buy that he put in yesterday at 97,862. Did Michael Saylor set the Bitcoin cycle top? That is the question. We'll try and decipher that in today's show. We'll have a look at a whole bunch of information, and then we'll see, is there any sort of trade opportunities around this, right? So first and foremost, we had been looking at this for quite a little bit of time, which is the TD sequential 9 top that was coming on the weekly time frame, and we pretty much got that. And I said to you that you can expect a 1 to 4 candle correction, but remember, a correction doesn't always necessarily need to mean that you're going to see price do that, right? It can mean that it's going to do that, but at the very least, it's telling you that price would move sideways. And if you see the signal, all that it's suggesting is sideways or down, which means it gives you a 66% probability that you're not going to do this, right? So that's what we're getting right now. We have price kind of hovering around, moving sideways over here. So the expectation would be that you're going to get about 1 to 4 weeks of correction. And again, that, just to be clear, that could just mean a slowdown phase. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to pull back and fill the CME gap that's coming in around the $77,000 to $80,000 level, although that is a possibility. And if you did see that, it would still present a major buying opportunity. And this is for anyone that's not exposed in the market over here. Any pullbacks that you get, even if it does come into that low level, that's going to create your next macro high low, and that becomes a buying opportunity, right? I just noticed, that's crazy. If you look at that literally pulled the zap sign with that little drawing that was over there. But anyways, let's continue. So a lot to look at over here. This is what the outlook looks like going forward into next year, which should be an incredibly bullish year. If you look at Fred Krueger's tweet over here, he's going to release a lot more of a detailed analysis very, very soon once he has a couple of guys checking it out. But essentially, he says the broad strokes are very, very clear for what's coming. MicroStrategy is going to be buying a lot of Bitcoin next year, probably on par to 30 billion or more, right? Then all of the ETFs have been buying so far in 2024, which means he's going to raise enormous capital still. He's going to be continuing to buy, and he says this is going to turbocharge the rally in Bitcoin next year. He's completely convinced that BTC will get to $200,000 based on this, and possibly even much higher, right? MicroStrategy is going to create a Bitcoin per share. As long as the multiple holds, they'll continue to buy. This is massive for existing MicroStrategy holders, giving protection against the net asset value, or MicroStrategy net asset value compression that's happening, right? Remember, we saw something like this happen with Grayscale, so you do want to just be careful and watch that net asset value. He said, it's not my opinion sufficient to switch out of BTC for MicroStrategy stock, and he says the debt is not a risk factor for the next 2 to 3 years, which is kind of the runway that they have essentially to pay it back, right? Even in a bear market, it should be okay. I do think that this thing falls apart somehow, one way or another. I've seen this story many times before. I wouldn't be surprised if this is largely responsible for some sort of a major crash in the future. And I think MicroStrategy stock will come down. But the point is, the next 6 to 12 months still look very, very positive and optimistic. And you have the whole market melting down, losing their minds when Bitcoin is up 40% on the month, right? 40% on the month, and just 4 or 5% down on the week. It's absolutely crazy, right? You can't even make it up. So he says a lot can happen in 2025 or post 2025, including bear markets, strategic Bitcoin reserve war accumulation, etc. And he says, I don't think it's too important to focus on it. Let's just narrow it down to the view of the next 12 months. And that's exactly what I've said, right? So I should probably bring this chart into view as well. Here is your MicroStrategy chart, which did have a massive pullback. And we actually spoke about this, the 2 risk factors. Last week, we covered the 2 risk factors. Risk factor 1 is the TD sequential 9 top coming into play. Risk factor number 2, we said, was the MicroStrategy chart, which took a massive dump and could be a leading factor. But at the end of the day, we told you, even if you do see that, this is still going to be a higher low on the daily time frame, and MicroStrategy still looks strong, right? On the 4-hour time frame as well, you're coming right into support, and now we're looking for a bit of a range to potentially form over here for MicroStrategy. So do keep your eyes on that. Very, very important as well. And then let's continue, right? So Horse says over here, if Saylor would go down, if Saylor sold over here, by the way, he would go down as having placed one of the best trades of all time. He's currently would be $14.9 billion in profit. Massive, massive, tying in with John Paulson, George Soros, and Jesse Livermore, who's one of the most famous stock traders of all time, famous for shorting the 1929 market crash, right? So very, very interesting. We have history in the making over here. And the question is, has the cycle deviated? Is the top in? A lot of people believe in this left translated cycle theory, which would suggest that we were going to end the cycle early and ultimately not have a long cycle that would run all the way into 2025. Well, history seems to rhyme. It doesn't always repeat one-to-one, but it rhymes in a super similar fashion. And if we look at the historical data over here, this is what it suggests. Everything is perfectly according to plan, right? Everything is going according to plan. We are currently following the purple trajectory over there. So if I just pop that on and off the screen, you'll see it. There it is. That's the purple trajectory. You can see we're tracking almost exactly like we were in the prior cycles. And of course, yes, you can come all the way back down over here, but ultimately expecting that price should be grinding onwards and upwards, for the next year or so, the next 6 to 12 months, we should have continuation higher, and it gets more exponential as we reach towards the end of that. We've also spoken about the 18.6-year real estate cycle, which is kind of driving the stock markets and the crypto cycle, and we're expecting that we're having an up-only environment for that market as well. So far, everything is following according to plan. Here is our timing cycles that we've focused on for literally years, ever since the lows over here with the FTX collapse that happened in November 2022. We said very, very likely to be a market cycle bottom, deviating below the bottom of the trading range, got back into that trading range, and it was all on, right? That's where we expected the bull market to take place. And now we're looking at the extensions from the prior highs, which last anywhere between 46 and 49 months. And consequently, we're expecting that in this green zone over here, between August and November 2025, we should see a cycle top. And that is very similar to what we saw in the prior cycles. Not only that, but if we zoom in and you actually study what happens with the relative strength index, the RSI over here on the monthly scale, you can see that all these cycle tops were put in when you hit this regression line, this yellow line coming towards the downside. And what it meant is specifically focusing on a horizontal, which is a much more objective measure. You have the 80 mark. All the parabolic phases of the bull runs were put in when the RSI crossed above that 80 mark. And you can see right now, we're still very, very, very low, right? We haven't even got close to that phase. So we're still expecting a lot more juice in the tank, right? It's not over. So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, subscribe to the channel. And then also, if you are new, right? This is Crypto Live. Welcome to the channel. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Let's see if we can get this to 25,000, hopefully by the end of today. I'll be streaming here from time to time. So also put on that bell notification so you do know when we do go live and you don't miss the alpha, because there is some major changes that are coming up, right? I'm going to show you as well in today's show one massive shift that I've started to put into my own personal portfolio. And I'm looking to make the switch, right? I've already taken the first step, but I'm about to make the switch. I'm going to tell you about that in today's show. So subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and let's continue on over here. So another reason that I'm not too worried about the cycle top being in, of course, local tops are always a possibility. Let's actually quickly just show you on this chart one of the potential outcomes of how I think this could play out. Of course, when you become extremely overextended, eventually you can get a pullback, and very similar to what we saw over here in 2021, we had a double top scenario. Price came up, came back down, and then it took another run in the second half of the cycle, at which point altcoins completely outperformed and rallied aggressively. We saw the same thing over here in 2013 with a big top, big pullback, and then finally finishing off with a blow off top. So it is possible that you would see something similar to that, in the sense that you might have price rallying up. My base case was anywhere between about $110,000, $125,000, and then maybe lead into a pullback into March, April, May, somewhere around that period, maybe bottoming around June, around that $75,000 to $80,000 mark. And then you finish off the cycle with the big blow off top rally into that green zone, which I labeled as August to November, with the base case being around October. So that's still at least currently my plan. I don't think anything has deviated from that. And another thing that gives me major confidence in that, of course, is going to be this chart over here, which we have looked at once or twice in the last couple of days. And that is the Bitcoin dominance chart. Markets tend to bottom on extreme greed, and there's nothing that measures extreme greed better than people's willingness to put huge money into the altcoin sector, which would make the chart look like that, right? That's where you get those big drop downs in the Bitcoin dominance, people basically bailing out of Bitcoin, moving into altcoins instead because there's better returns. And we have yet to see that candle, and we expect that that candle should probably come sometime next year. So another little bit of a confluent factor that you can look at if you are somebody at home panicking, really questioning, what you should be doing with your capital. And I would understand that, especially if you're somebody that only joined into the market a couple of weeks ago, maybe you're already close to break even on some of your positions. Maybe some of you bought the exact top and maybe 5% moved down. You already lost 5% of your account. All I can tell you is that this is why it's so important to stick through the full crypto cycle in the future. Play it a little bit differently, rather stay for the 4-year cycle, establish your positions at the bottom like we have, and you would be way up and in a much better position to make tough decisions, right? The alternative is, if you have joined late, of course, it doesn't help me tell you to, go back in time. You can't do that. So the next step that I'll give you is to reduce your risk, reduce your position size, and distribute your buy orders over time, right? In other words, dollar cost average, or create recurring buys, but aggressively, as opposed to recurring buys over months and months or years and years, right? You're looking to add recurring buys to help you base out that volatility, giving you an average entry, right? That's what you should be looking at, right? So also, another thing that gives confidence the top is not in for the overall cycle is this, right? Bitcoin price color-coded by various risk levels. Now, this tool basically looks at so many different risk levels, from social metrics to on-chain metrics to extensions away from the mean. There's a whole bunch of things that goes into this tool, but essentially, if you look at this tool, where we're right now, well, we're only sitting at that 0.6 to 0.7. We are yet to reach the extremities. The pico top tends to occur on the 0.9 to 1. Now, the 0.6 to 0.7 or the 0.5 to 0.6 level is typically an area where you probably don't want to allocate any new fresh liquidity into Bitcoin specifically, but into altcoins, you probably still can. There's still opportunities there as per this chart over here. But it means things are getting moving, right? We're in a trending move, but we haven't quite reached the exact top, which you expect to occur just like every single cycle on that exact red dot, right? There you can see it every single cycle. You put in the pico top on the red dot. We haven't even seen the red dot occur once. That's being the 0.9 to 1 on the risk metric scale, right? So all in all, that's looking good. Yes, we've overextended away from the 21 exponential moving average, but so far, this is what we studied. This is what we looked at. You can see, I just want to showcase over here to you. Of course, you do have the stochastic RSI, which is now crossing towards the downside. And for many, that will be a very, very scary thing. But what I want to show you is, if you look at the prior times that that's happened as well, this has occurred before, where it pretty much just chops up and down. So you see something like this, moves up, crosses down, holds, crosses down, holds, crosses down. But essentially, it remains within these various different phases. And when you remain in those phases, that's where you get those parabolic advancements, which you can see on the chart, right? If we have a look at the chart over here, this leads to all of those big parabolic advancements. You can see over there, holds down, even as it crosses back down over there, it creates a slight pause in the market, immediately picks back up, and the volatility comes back in, and you get these massive pushes, right? So we looked at this a couple of weeks ago. This was specifically leaving a long-term range, 224 days. You then lead into another 140 days of straight upside. Yes, there's a short-term pause that occurs within that phase over here. You can see with this zone over here, which might be similar to what we're experiencing right now. You pause or consolidate for a couple of days. In this instance, it was 6 bars or 42 days. And then the next candle catapulted you to finish off that 140-day climb, right? So the 140-day climb, you can see measured from this candle over here. Again, this candle over here to this candle over here. And then we went into a range again, just like this zone over here. We went into a range for 8 months, and then we started to leave that trading range, right? So far, since we've left the trading range, we had 1, 2, 3 candles of straight up only, maybe putting in the pause like we saw over there, where you're going to get a couple of weeks of sideways price action over here, and then finish off the year very, very strong, which gives you your 140-day marker. And where would that take you if you were to finish with 140 days? Let's quickly have a look over here. 140 days would take you out towards March 2025, right? So keep an eye out on that. As mentioned, in order to fulfill the right translated cycle, you probably would have to have some sort of a major pullback at some point. And I think it would be unlikely that you're going to get that pullback all the way down to, the prior breakout level around that 60 to 70K zone. Now, I think it's more likely that you continue this rally onwards and upwards into the end of the year, maybe March, and then you start to pull back, finding support probably around that 80K level. A lot of people are going to be looking at the 80K level. Those of you who have been around for a long time, you'll know how every dip, the people have a certain target in mind, and 90% of the time that target gets completely missed, right? We're going to look at that on the lower time frames in just a minute, but keep an eye out on that, right? So in terms of the lower time frames, this is your daily chart. You can see your pivot level has now jumped all the way to the top over there, which means the bulls have a lot of work to do to get the momentum back up, right? It's going to take a lot of energy, a lot of effort to get the momentum back up. Most specifically, they will need price to get back above $102,100, which supports the fact that your most likely outcome is exactly what the TD sequential 9 top suggests, which is going to be a 33% chance that price is just going to move sideways and a 33% chance that price is going to pull down, therefore giving you a 66% chance that price is not going to just rally up from here, right? And that is the most likely outcome, especially since the pivot level has jumped so massively towards the upside. So in other words, you're looking for corrective phase. But again, corrective phase could mean sideways price action, which could present huge opportunities in the other sectors, which I'm going to show you in a minute, right? There's going to be opportunity there because sideways trading near or at all-time highs for Bitcoin typically leads to a rotation out of Bitcoin into the altcoin sector. And that's where you're going to see the altcoins rally, right? So we have a lot to focus on over here today. It is an important time in the market. And if we anchor our Fibonacci tool from the start of the move over here, which started at that $49,000 level. And I'll remind you again, in terms of those levels, back then everybody had low levels. They were targeting 40,000 over there. We only got 49,000, and then you rally. It's going to be the same thing now. People are going to have targets in mind, probably like the breakout level over here. A lot of people are going to be looking at that 73K zone as a technical support area, which it is. But don't be surprised if that level gets front run and missed. Now, in terms of the pullback levels, where could you be looking at, right? Well, first and foremost, you've already come down towards this key level over here. You can see SR flip within the zone over here, prior wicks. Let's zoom in to make it a little bit closer. So you have your prior wicks over here. You have tagged more or less into that level and you've started to push up. But I would go rather with the body closes, which is going to take it to about 91,154 is the main level of interest. That lines up with your 18 exponential moving average. You've lost the 9 exponential moving average. And the most ideal thing for the bulls would be to set in a trading range right over here, right? To pretty much just defend and hold this level, bouncing between what would then be the range low up to what would be the range high at 100K. And if you can just chop and range like this into next year, that's going to be incredibly bullish, right? If you don't hold this level, you probably hit the zone bounce, set in a lower high over here. That lower high probably is then going to take you to your next zone where there will be a lot of buying at about $85,000. Now, you guys know the magic of the Fibonacci tool, which we've used so many times to buy key levels, right? And we said that in strong trending bull markets, the 0.382 fib level is going to be one of the most significant, and that's currently coming in at $80,000. And then you got your 0.5, which we've also seen work a high majority of the time, and therefore this becomes, you know, the ultimate buy the dip zone. If you do see price coming down, I'll label it for you so you can mark it off on your own chart. Let's just quickly hold that there. So that level, there goes 74,500 up to 80,362. If you have no exposure to the crypto markets and you're looking to get exposure, this is probably going to be the ideal level. But I probably wouldn't be buying Bitcoin even if it were to come down into these zones like this. I would rather be looking towards strong altcoins, which will also take a USD dip in the event that Bitcoin comes down into the zone. And then you can start to allocate for the next move up, right? So that's something that we're looking at. That's a worst case scenario, is a pullback down to $74,000. I think just take it level to level. First level of interest is going to be over here. I'll just read them out to you again. 91,154. Second level of interest, $85,000, which is where I believe the majority of buyers will step in. And then your worst case scenario is this key zone between 74 and 80,000, right? So those are your step-by-step levels where you expect price should bounce, right? So here it is, 4-hour time frame. I gave this yesterday as an area of interest. You hit that level, you are starting to find support. Now we need to simply just observe, right? Theoretically, we still need to put in a daily high low. That's the thing, right? The further and further price extends away without putting in a major high low, the more and more risky it becomes to be entering the market for the first time. Because, of course, right, you could have ultimately over here, pretty much your last high low was down here, and then price has just absolutely ripped higher high, higher high, higher high. If it just keeps doing that, right, then you can expect a deep correction, and even that would be still your next high low. So if you don't have exposure in the market, your best bet is probably just to wait for price to eventually break down. Whether that happens now or it happens later, you're looking for a mechanical trigger, you're looking for structural support over there. And if it makes sense with a high low where we can see there's a clear high low forming, just like we did with all of these, and that's going to be your safest entry, right, in terms of calculating the risk and working out the probabilities. Okay, but in terms of the question, is the Bitcoin cycle top in? Another thing to have a look at over here, which we've covered a whole lot and we've kept an eye on, is the funding rate. You can see the funding rate dropping down over here, but the most important thing is the funding rate hasn't got anywhere near to what we saw all the way back here in the 2021 peak. You can see we're still sitting about 70 to 80% below that level, right? So there's a lot more work that still needs to be done from the bulls to get things really overheated. Currently sitting there, it is exactly 80% right now below where the funding rate was in the prior cycle. We can also look at the funding rate heat map across all the various different altcoins, and you can see the reset that's occurred over here recently, right? So we're looking for periods of orange and yellow, but bright, strong orange and yellow. This marked the top that we had at $74,000 for Bitcoin in March this year. And currently we haven't even printed close to those levels, which shows you that the chances are probably higher than not that this is a interim flush, right? We use a lot of things as confluence to check whether the support is there or not. And another thing that we can look at as supporting evidence is, of course, the 7-day exchange volume still increasing towards the upside. So there is still opportunity, right? So one of the main things that we need to focus on that will drive the market over here is this underside retest, right? So keeping it very, very simple, this is the USDT dominance breakdown. This is what's driven the initial move over here. It's this phase, if I just highlight it, this small move from there to there has been what's driven Bitcoin towards the upside. And now you got that small bounce, which is bringing a little bit of fear back into the market. So you can still treat this just like any other chart, and you can pretty much mark off the key levels. And if you look to what I'll do actually is I'm going to delete the pink over here to just make it nice and clear for you. And then we're going to work on some strong horizontals. So for now, let's just move that out the way. And if we look at the horizontals, when you mark that candle over there, which is where the initial bounce came from, look at all the wicks, body close over there, run it through. Where's price right now? It's testing that underside level. Now, this is going to be a very valuable and important test to watch, because if you reject from this level, this is what's going to drive price within crypto and Bitcoin towards the upside, right? where do you start to invalidate on this? So if your bias is short on this and you want to see trend continuation towards the downside, that means you'd want to see this reject now and continue down. And that rejection should bring Bitcoin up, right? It should pump Bitcoin up. So we must always have an invalidation. If you start to close multiple candles now back above, this 432 level, which would look something like this, 432, I'd be then looking for something like that. Come back down, test it a couple of times. Then we can say, maybe this is a deviation. And then maybe we're looking for a big move off of this level like this towards the upside. And then we can start to invalidate, because remember, on the USDT dominance, every single big move that we've got as per the vertical dotted lines running down the screen have actually marked major tops for Bitcoin. So this is how we need to constantly analyze things when you are at a very, very pivotal point, right? So I still think there's plenty of opportunity there. Even if you do get this bounce over here from the USDT dominance, I think it will be met with a lower high, and later on you'll further break down, which will still provide that opportunity within the altcoin sector, which you guys know we've been looking at. We're still waiting for the breakdown. So take advantage, get your accounts ready, prepare yourself. If you do want to support the channel, there is an opportunity with BitUnix. You can actually get a 20% sign-up deposit or rebate. So you deposit, for example, $2,000. They'll give you 20% on top of that, and you can use that to trade with, right? So you'll get $200 deposit, or you'll get, $400. You'll get $400 that you can trade with, and then you can also win a trip to Dubai, right? So you have 34 days left to participate in that. All right. Let's look at others. Let's also have a look at most specifically Ethereum. I really want to focus on Ethereum, because if there is going to be a transition like in the prior cycles, we expect that now over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, that transition will happen. This is why I've made one massive change to my portfolio. I'll share that with you guys in a moment. Again, guys, I do want to remind you, please do us a massive favor. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. There we go. We can see the subscribers going up. Every single person watching, please subscribe to the channel so you know when we do go live. We're not always going to be able to share on the other channel that we're here. If you want to continue to support and watch us, please do subscribe and hit the bell notification as well. All right, let's continue. So others chart, right? Others is breaking out. Others is breaking out over here. This is a back test. Remember, you get the whole bump and run theory. You break down the downsloping trend line. This is also known as the neckline for the others chart. Suggests that you're in the early innings, right? That there's still massive opportunity over here. Also, what you can do is you can work out the neckline to figure out how far is this going to rally. This is one of the main benefits of looking at chart patterns, right? Cup and handle formation over there. Perfect. You measure from the bottom of the cup to the neckline over there. And this is giving you a target. Let's quickly work out that target. So it's giving you a target over there from the breakout level. This is how much you should expect the others crypto market cap to move. So the altcoin sector to move in the coming weeks and months, about 105%. So basically, if you pick on average any altcoin out there, you can expect that that altcoin is probably going to double in the coming months to reach the top side of the cup and handle formation, which we've seen Bitcoin already play out, gold play out, and we saw the S&P 500 play out to perfection, right? So so far, this has been a common theme that keeps repeating in the crypto markets. You look for those opportunities over there. This shows you probably now is not the time to get shaken out of your positions just yet, right? Just yet. Get your exposure as early as possible into the cycle, which is what we've done, and then sit and hold, right? Most people lose their money like this. Most people lose their money by trying to sell the top every single time. So they look at something like Bitcoin and they say, hey, this move ran a lot, the top's in, right? So they sell. You got your confirmation. Let's say price goes in there. Let's say it makes a new lower high. They say, that's it. I've got my confirmation. Exit the position over there. Price comes down, puts in a little high low, rallies, captures all the liquidity on the upside from all the traders that are shorting. This prior resistance at 100K now flips into support. Price doesn't even come there. Front runs that level. They FOMO back in and price just keeps rallying, right? This, I've seen it every cycle, guys. It even happened to me. In my first cycle, it happened to me a lot. Then you end up chasing price. Let's say you started back then, maybe you started with like 5 Bitcoin. By the end of the cycle, you have 2 Bitcoin left, right? You didn't lose any USD value, but the value of Bitcoin kept going up and up and up, and you just keep checking your account, and your Bitcoin denominated value went from 5 to 2. Yes, you made profit. You're still up in US dollar values, but you've lost a lot of opportunity. You could have been up significantly more. So don't fall victim to that kind of trap. Everything still looks okay over here. Bitcoin dominance is still near the highs, which should give you support. Remember, as I mentioned, because the cycle, it should encourage you because the cycle bottoms or the cycle tops when Bitcoin dominance bottoms, right? So USD wise, every single Bitcoin USD top occurred when the dominance chart was trading at the bottom of the trading range. And we don't have that this time, right? This is trading all the way to the top. So very unlikely that this is the end of the cycle. We are still waiting for the breakdown. And this would be an example of if you're wanting to risk any of your Bitcoin to try and make more Bitcoin because you're trading the ETH BTC chart, right? You're trading Ethereum against Bitcoin, then this is ultimately what you'd be looking for. You're looking for ETH BTC coming down, broke below the bottom of the falling wedge formation. So sometimes that can be, similar to your final shakeout. There it is. This was the area of interest that we're watching. It's been a tough one. I'm not going to lie. It's been a tough one to trade over here, but this is your major support. The point is, are you closer to a bottom or are you closer to a top on this? And I think right now it's splitting hairs on ETH BTC, whether the bottom is going to be over here or the bottom is going to be over here or the bottom is going to be over here where we're at right now, right? The point is you treat this like a trade. And the way that you treat a trade is like this. You would create your trade setup. For every 1 Bitcoin that you're risking over there, you have the opportunity to get yourself almost 8 Bitcoin in return, right? So risk 1 Bitcoin or risk 0.1 Bitcoin to get 0.8 Bitcoin. You're getting 8 times the return. If this falling wedge breaks out and price trades back to at least this level, I think it will probably go even higher, probably back to the top of the trading range by the end of the crypto cycle, right? Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be stupid about how you get your entry. You can still think about this logically and you can still come up with a trading plan. And I'll be outlining this trading plan pretty extensively for anyone that is in Whale Room. I just gave an update as well in terms of what I'm doing over there. So there's a little bit of a sneak peek for you for anyone that is in Whale Room. But we would come with a trading plan over here to scale into that position. And one way that you can do it is like this. I know you can't see that, but you will in a bit. Let's just quickly change the settings over here. I know that the style is all messed up. Let's just quickly put that up. There we go. Okay, there we have it. So the way that you take this trade, let's zoom in, is like this. It's just like any other trade, right? You want to typically pyramid into the position, which means you don't have to ape into the position in one go. If this comes lower like that, you're taking a small position over here, small amount of Bitcoin, and transitioning into ETH. So you sell the Bitcoin for USDT and you instantly go and switch it into Ethereum, right? You're trading out of Bitcoin into Ethereum. If it does reject and it comes down a little bit lower into that region, then you buy a bit more. You get a bigger position, right? As the pyramid approach suggests, smallest at the top and bigger as you get closer and closer to the major support or the key invalidation zone, thereby taking on less and less risk, right? And this is how you slowly build that position. Alternatively, if you are somebody that's mega scared, what you can simply do is you can just wait for final confirmation, which means you might not get the same risk to reward opportunity as the 1 to 8 that's suggested over here, but you will still get probably at least a 1 to 3. And that would be wait for the break up here, break the structure, create a higher high, throw back in, hold a support into the higher low, and then you start to establish into that ETH BTC position. I will update every single one of you that are in Whale Room when I do take this trade, right? So all the information is in here under Captain's Take. That's where I'll be doing it. But just to let you guys know, I did move my money from my ledger onto exchange in anticipation of doing the switch, right? So I'm prepping to move out of Bitcoin into either Ethereum or a higher beta play on ETH. And I'm going to give you a whole lot of higher beta plays as well, right? So why ETH? Why ETH and why now? Well, if you look at this over here, we can see in terms of how things have played out previously. Let's just quickly change the screen over there so you can see everything nicely. If you look at the others dominance chart, which is very, very important, you know, we've been focusing a lot on others. We've also looked at others dominance. We've also looked at others against BTC, which we also are indicating that there's a possible major low that's coming into play over here. Now, it's very rare that the market cycle is going to have topped when you have all of these various different signals suggesting a bottom against Bitcoin, right? Altcoins bottoming against Bitcoin, altcoins bottoming against their USD pairs, and basically things are looking good for the altcoin sector. That usually signals a transition out of Bitcoin into altcoins in a risk-on environment, right? So if you look at this and you look at the others dominance, you can see that others dominance typically bottoms at a certain point in time, most specifically around that November period, beginning of November, and then it starts to move up, right? And as it moves up, you get this rally from ETH. So there it is, others in 2017, bottoms in November, rallies in through December, January, February, March, and then you get the same thing, an explosion from Ethereum, right? That happened again in 2021 over here, November 2020. Ethereum pretty much starts to break out rallies aggressively. November 2024, others dominance all the way at the bottom in preparation for a big move up. The key point is if you look at these charts and you really study them closely, I want to just zoom in to show this to you. Let's go back over here one. Give me a second, guys. So if we go back here to show this to you, what you'll notice is that you oftentimes put in a macro higher low, right? We've done that now. This is the third time that we've done it. So you put in the major low, you then start to create this rounded bottom macro high low on the others dominance. Let's go to the next one. So you have the major low, the cycle low for the bear market. Price runs up, right? You create the macro high low, price rallies. Now you have over there the cycle low for the others dominance. Price rallies, comes down, shakes everyone out, creates a macro high low on the others dominance. And then that's usually where you start to see Ethereum rally. So that's part of the reason for the transition. Another part of the reason for the transition is this, right? If we look at Bitcoin monthly returns, let's just go over there, switch on to the monthly returns. What do we see? We see the month of November is typically the best performing month. Remember, we're up about 40%. Okay, now we've obviously dropped. We were up about 40% to the highs. On average, you're doing about 45% in the month of November, right? One of the best performing months for Bitcoin specifically. Now we're up 33%, but look forward towards December. December is only about 5%. In crypto terms, we consider that a flat market, right? Price isn't going anywhere. It's sideways. It's consolidating. What does the TD sequential suggest will happen into December? Well, it suggests a 1 to 4 candle correction, which would be sideways price action. Exactly what that is saying over there. Then we go into January. What does January suggest? Well, even less volatility for Bitcoin. Only a 3.35% gain. But let's go and have a look at Ethereum and what Ethereum looks like in November. Ethereum is typically pretty flat in November. In December, it starts to mark up with 8.9% on average. And then you go into January and bang, that is one of the best performing months specifically for ETH. It happens in January, 17%, 22%, 22%, and then May, 30%. And then usually you expect that sell in May and go away. And you can see historically, June, July are typically relatively bad months for ETH. So we are planning that transition, right? What are the higher beta plays? Remember, you can either you can move your BTC into ETH if you do want to take that risk. I think that the better approach, though, for any of you out there, is to rather risk new money if you can help it. Rather leave your Bitcoin, don't play around with it, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You know, Bitcoin is a forever trade. You can, if you establish very, very low entries, you can kind of hold those positions for life, hodl for life, right? It's a hedge against everything, and rather risk new money to try and make more Bitcoin later. So if you have new capital coming in from various different income streams, you know, you can either go to ETH, long and on leverage based on the various different things that we're showcasing to you, or you can come to the high beta plays, right? So as per Victor over here, giving you an entire list that you can pick from in terms of higher beta plays. Let's just let that load up. Here it is, right? You got Puffer, ENS, SSV, ETC, Lido. Lido is one of the positions we put into our portfolio in anticipation of the ETH run. We up massively on that. That's for the well-room members. You have Arbitrum, Eigenlayer, Matic, Optimism, 𝗕𝗤. You guys will remember I sold all of my ETH for 𝗕𝗤 a couple of months ago. That turned out to be an insane trade, and I'm going to continue to hold that. We got Res. Pendle's another great option, one of the few charts that keep putting in higher highs and high lows and showing strength against the rest of the market, right? And then you got Stark, you got Swell, ZK, you got ETHW, 𝗕𝗢𝗡𝗧, another one that I would recommend. 𝗕𝗢𝗡𝗧 and being a meme coin on ETH, it's performed very, very well. We established some good entries on that as well, very low entries. Everyone that took that trade with me is in profit, but I think that the meme coins will continue to perform. So I think that's a great one to look at. You have Ondo as well, real world asset exposure if you are looking for that. I think 𝗕𝗚𝗚 is another banger trade opportunity if you're looking for that. And then you have SCR and ETH-FI, right? So these are some of the opportunities that you can look towards. We'll discuss this a little bit more at length when I come up with the trading plan for how we're going to make the switch. Remember, there is time. If we look at a chart like this, there is time. It's not necessarily going to go from here straight to 0.05 in one single candle. And even if it does, that's going to create an abnormal candle. Abnormal candles, also known as inefficiency candles, if you ever do see something like that, will often retrace at least halfway down, at which point we'll get another entry. So for those of you that are in the Whale Room Discord, I'll outline my exact trading plan for how we're going to transition into this. Just keep an eye out under Captain's Take. For any of you that are not in there, the clock is ticking, right? This is going to close off. You have a 42% discount on a yearly membership. Guys, think of how much money you're risking in meme coins versus the value that you're going to be getting over here. Use the link in the description below if you want to take advantage of that Black Friday special, right? So a couple of coins that I want to have a look at over here. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard Robinhood, obviously, since Gary Gensler is pretty much fired. Once he's completely stepped out, you can expect that Robinhood are going to start to list a whole bunch of different coins. So Robinhood typically caters to the late retail. The late retail bring a lot of money and a lot of value and create those blow off top peaks that we look for in the crypto cycles. So we want to establish what are the best positions to be getting into. We saw that they listed 𝗕𝗚𝗚, and we saw what happened to 𝗕𝗚𝗚 when they listed it, right? Then they listed WIF. Well, it's ultimately looking like their next coin that they're going to be listing, this just came out as of yesterday, is Bonk. Bonk is currently pulling back. This is what I was talking about when you see those abnormal candles like we have on the weekly scale over here. Pay attention if this does manage to come anywhere down near this low level. It's got a lot of numbers, so I'm just going to read them out. This would be 339,449. So around 340,000 would be the last 6 digits. If it comes back into that range breakout level, that was your prior highs, that's going to present a buy the dip opportunity, right? So you'd be looking for something like that. That's going to be your buy the dip opportunity on something like Bonk. Let's just actually quickly measure out percentage wise, should you even get that. That is about another 20% down, right? So if Bitcoin continues to drop towards 85K, expect that a lot of these coins are going to come back towards those key supports. And I've showcased and laid out the foundation and the plan for why this most likely happens next for ETH, for others dominance, and for ETH BTC. Therefore, you have your final opportunity to get allocated into the altcoin sector. All the picks have been dropped there in Whale Room, right? Some of the other ones that I'm looking at, we can just quickly go to 𝗕𝗚𝗚. Let's have a look at 𝗕𝗚𝗚 USDT as a clear higher beta play as well on ETH. If we do get this down towards those lower levels, that is 0. Or let's read the last numbers, 1678 as per the price label over here. If you get any little scam wicks that drop down into that level, that's going to be a great zone for some allocation into 𝗕𝗚𝗚. That is about 10% down, right? Then your only job is this. Once you have those positions established, protect your capital, right? Stay safe, guys. I can't tell you how many of these messages I keep getting about people getting scammed. I don't know if they're faking it because they're looking for handouts or something, or if it's true, but somebody got taken for 30 Bitcoin just the other day. They thought they were giving it to a trader they thought it was me, but it's obviously not me, guys. I'll never, ever take your capital. I just want to be clear. We'll never DM you. We'll never reach out to you. And there's one very easy way you can never get scammed. Don't ever give your capital to anyone else. Ever. Self-custody till the death, right? Self-custody. protect your own capital. There are Black Friday specials on this as well from Ledger. If you do want to participate, you can see you're getting up to 40% off on some of these ledgers over here. If you do buy the Nano Ledger Flex, which is the one that I currently have over here, they're going to give you $70 worth of Bitcoin loaded on that as well. Plus, you're still getting a pretty good discounted rate over there. The other thing is also NordVPN. Stay protected. You can see I'm in South Africa right now. I'm actually in Dubai, but according to this, I'm in South Africa. I always have this on, right? So they're also giving a big special. I think you're getting it for like $3 a month. It's the price of a cappuccino per month. Click the link over there to get the deal. That is just loading up weird. It's $3 a month. $3 a month, you get a VPN over there. It will block any of those malicious attacks, right? Okay, let's have a look at a couple of alts. Do we have time for alts? That's the question. Do we have time for alts? Maybe we have one or two. Let's do a quick overview of Solana since it is one of our core holdings. Okay, pulling back from that key level over there, we said expect a little bit of a slowdown phase. I was definitely hoping it would rather break above 260 and defend that level, but now you've got this double top scenario, right? Price hitting that level over there, starting to pull back. This is going to still be your predominant trading range, right? So you play it level to level. Your predominant trading range is going to be between 260 and down to 207. So if price does pull all the way back down to that $205, $207 level, that's going to be the reaccumulation zone. That's your range low. That's where you're looking for price to hold up as support and then continue onwards and upwards. My lessons that I've learned in the prior bull markets is, as mentioned, not to get too clever, right? Not to get too clever thinking I'm selling every single top and then I'm going to buy back lower and then you end up missing it, right? Instead of buying over there where you want, it front runs it and price runs away. So my lesson to you guys, well, if you want to learn from me, and it's not to necessarily say this is the only way to do it, but if you want to learn from me, if you have got into your positions very, very early and you're following along from the beginning, which means hopefully you were listening and you got in as early as me, just continue to hold those positions, right? Do not trade in and out unless we have the signs and symptoms of the cycle top. There has been some of these signs and symptoms, but it's not enough yet, right? It's not enough yet. Too many people are still trying to call the top. And until such time as everybody is confident that we're going higher, the top is not in, right? So jump into Whale Room if you do want to learn more. That's it from me, folks. I will see all of you on the next one. I hope you have an absolutely stellar day and we'll catch you tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel and cheers for now.